I will be here every day until this is over. I can only let myself see a positive outcome, where he is exonerated, the witnesses discredited, the victim admitted she lied. We will take a taxi home, and I will put him to bed, and he will sleep, and his body and mind can begin to restore themselves. I can't countenance the alternative. I shudder at the idea. For me, as for most people, prison has always been an abstract concept. At most, I have driven past them imagining the prisoners inside, but as a race apart, criminals, not ordinary people. Completely alien to me and my way of life, something I will never come across or have to think about. Well, not anymore. When you have other mothers as friends, the conversations move on over the years. First it was all sleepless nights and nappies. First words and potty training. Then schools, friendship dramas, puberty. Most recently, it was drugs, sex, and alcohol. I thought they would be the last problems we would have to deal with before I forged a new relationship with my sons, an adult one. I imagined them taking me out for lunch, consulting me for advice on home improvements, hugging me again, like they did when they were little. But this time it would be them making me feel safe instead of the other way around. I never in a million years imagined I would be here, in this unknown landscape where none of my friends can, or would want to, follow me. I would swap places with any of them in a heartbeat. The judge sits down, and so does everybody else, apart from the prosecution lawyer, who turns to the jury to make his opening statement. And so it begins, my little boy's rape trial. Ellen, September 2017. Sasha's not in when I get home from the studio, so I put on a CD of Olivia's recording of Dido's Lament by Purcell, full blast. Of course, I've got everything she's ever recorded downloaded, but this is my absolute favourite, softer and more intimate than some of the showier arias. It was the first thing I ever heard her sing live, and there's something about slotting the CD into my old hi-fi that feels right. I played it on the show today, shoving down any misgivings I had about whether Sasha might be listening. She was at work. There's no chance they were playing Simply Classical in her office. I don't suppose any of her colleagues have even heard of such a tiny digital radio station, unless she's mentioned it, which I doubt. She hardly even talks to me about it. A silent signal that she disapproves of my choice of work, redolent of the Monktons as it is. Classical music was their world, and she rejected it utterly, as she has done everything connected with them since the day she moved out. It was different for me, though. I loved it as she never did. My parents weren't ones for listening to music. My mum listened to BBC Radio 2 in the kitchen sometimes, and they had a few CDs in a dusty stand in the front room, one of which might be put on if they had friends around. But they didn't care about it. It didn't stir any emotion in them. I went through the motions of fandom when it came to the bands other girls liked, pinning posters on my wall and even going to a couple of gigs with Karina. But my heart was never in it. It wasn't until that first concert where I sat in the darkness next to Daniel, heart pounding, tears in my eyes, Olivia's voice pouring over me, into me, like warm water, that I understood what music could be. I lie down on the sofa, wanting to relax into the music, but keeping one hand on the remote control, alert for Sasha's key in the door. I hadn't been expecting her last Friday. I thought she was going out straight after work, but she'd come home around 7 p.m. in a foul mood and found me listening to Olivia. She hadn't said anything about the music, but I could feel her displeasure, radiating out like sound waves, invisible but powerful. I'd switched it off and tried to talk to her, but she'd stomped off to her room saying she was tired.